name is Mary Frances Ellison, and I've known Kevin for over 30 years. I did the math, I can't believe it myself. But I realized in the last few weeks, thinking about Kevin, I realized that when we meet people in our lives, we don't know the role that we're going to play in their lives, or that they're going to play in our lives. They're just people, then we meet them. But it turned out that over the years, Kevin and I played, sort of cameo roles, co-starring roles, supporting actor roles in one another's lives during the different phases. And I'd like to focus on 3 phases of my friendship with Kevin: the housemate years, the Uncle Kevin years, and then the final year. In the housemate years was back in the late 80s, my post-grad years, and I was introduced to Kevin by another friend of mine from university, David Churchill, who also is now no longer with us. So 2 of my 3 housemates from that first year are now gone. And we had a crazy house on Nairn Avenue over at St. Clair and Dufferin area. And Kevin's cat Simon, I think if you were here earlier, you saw a picture of Simon riding on Kevin's shoulders. That cat had a personality as big as Kevin's. He was an amazing cat. We ended up with him for the last year or so of his life. My husband and I took him in when Kevin was couch surfing on people's couches and couldn't keep him. And Simon was an amazing cat. He not only rode on Kevin's shoulders and things, but he had a unique way of waking Kevin up in the morning, which was that he would reach under Kevin's door if he was locked out of Kevin's room. He would reach under the door and start unplugging his stereo. Seriously, this cat was so smart. He would get Kevin up by unplugging his alarm clock, his clock radio and everything, until Kevin finally had to get up and deal with Simon and feed him and let him out and do all that sort of stuff. So he was also a running co-star in the show. The house was on a nutty street that was very loud. People were driving up and down the street. We were just a couple of doors up from a restaurant that would stay open until 4 o'clock in the morning and things like that. It wasn't too great, especially for Kevin, who had the front room. I had the middle room, David had the back room. And so we moved en masse, the cat and Kevin and David and I moved to another house, and we picked up Judith, who is here, and her dog Mandy, and we became an even bigger household on Rushton Road, and we had a lot of fun in those years. Music, movies, radio appearances. He even talked me to radio appearances. He got me on CGRT and on CBC when he was doing that. I ended up reviewing magazines. I have no idea how that happened, but he talked me into it anyway. Watching The Godfather 1, 2, and 3 in sequence at the Bloor Cinema. Does anybody else remember that?
Oh, yeah.
We did that several times. So, but I think the biggest running joke from those years was that anything that would, any excursion out into the big world of Toronto that would take anyone else 20 minutes to get from A to B, you had to book about an hour if you were meeting up with Kevin. Add some time, because he would run into 2, 3, 4 people that he knew. Toronto was a village for Kevin, and he knew everyone. So I got introduced to a whole slew of people through Kevin, some of whom are friends to this day. I'm looking at April and Marla and people that I've known now for many, many, many years, and new friends that I made just recently on his care team, but that comes later. So Kevin was always introducing one person to another. I'm sure you've met friends and friends of friends and friends of friends' friends, and everybody knows Kevin. But like Walt mentioned, I too ended up getting married and having children, and you kind of drift apart, and you end up taking sort of cameo roles at that point. You show up in each other's lives every once in a while, and you come to dinner and get together and do something a few times a year. And my kids knew Kevin as Uncle Kevin. He was one of the big battalion of honorary uncles and aunts that my children are fortunate enough to have. So he would do things with us. He would come to dinner. He would marvel at how the kids were growing. And one of my favorite memories from that time was when he took my son, who would have been about 7 or 8, to a preview screening of the film Madagascar. Kevin was thrilled because he knew a kid that he could take to a kid's film. So we co-opted mine, and my son Ben insisted on getting him a beret. Because he said, Mom, I'm going to a screening. I have to have a critic hat. And Kevin's got the critic hat, and I have to have one. So we went out, and I found him a kid-sized beret, and I have a picture of the two of them wearing berets. And it was fantastic. And he got to the screening with Kevin, and then said in a very not sotto voce whisper to Kevin, "Where's everybody else's critic hats?" Since we introduced to all these Toronto film critics, he said, "Come on, where are the critic hats?" So anyway, that was those were the middle years, and then in the last year of his life, Kevin contacted me to help him out with his finances. He knew that I knew a little bit about financial stuff, and he wanted me to take a look at his finances and make sure that everything was in order. And I started out with that, and was getting together with him through the late winter and then into the spring, and was with him when he was having more and more health crises. And there was the weekend, the Easter Passover weekend, where he was in and out of Toronto General Hospital emergency 3 times in 3 days. And the health crises were coming closer and closer together. And that weekend he said to me that he wasn't afraid to die, but he was afraid to die alone, and he was afraid to die in pain. So I said, well, I promise you that we're going to take care of that and make sure that you aren't in pain and aren't alone. And the end of that weekend he entered Princess Margaret Hospital and never came home for longer than a few hours in his apartment again, but went from excellent care in Princess Margaret Hospital to, I'll pass over a very brief incident that we won't even talk about at Kensington House, but his 2 days there, not good. But then he went on to Bridgepoint, Princess Margaret for a while, and then to Bridgepoint. And for the extrovert that Kevin was, I think those last months of his life were quite lovely, actually, because he saw more people. He had a parade of people coming through his room. The staff at both Princess Margaret and Bridgepoint marveled at the never-ending parade of folks that were coming in to see Kevin. And he was just loving it, and loving being able to talk to everybody and hold court, and have his room the way he wanted it and everything. So Leonore Johnson and Naomi Boxer and Marjorie Wright, we formed his care team, basically. We were there, and everybody else was fabulous and coming in, but I think that we were the, sort of the core of the people that were coming in and coming out. And I got to, my highlights for that were becoming, let me see, his wardrobe consultant. That was a fun one. I went and got clothes for him and new snappy hats, and he was thrilled with that. And organizing him to get haircuts and beard trims during his stays, because he had to, keep looking good. Our late night talks, I would go and visit him in the evenings a lot of times, and we would just have wonderful reminiscences and talking at night. The pickle wars with Marjorie, we each thought that we knew exactly the best kind of dill pickles, and we were applying with dill pickles on and off. And then the final Thanksgiving dinner that we took to him on the Monday before he passed away. All of those are really special memories for me, and it was Kevin who made them great, and it was wonderful to be there for him. So I had no idea that, I would end up being privileged enough to play a supporting role in his last months and year. And I really, really feel privileged to have been with him and with Leonore. Leonore and I were with him for his last hour, and we held his hands and told him how much he was loved and how bravely he had fought all of these years since the diagnosis, and that it was okay to go. And he did. Very peacefully, very quietly, he went to spirit, as he used to say, Kevin went to Spirit in such a beautiful way, and I just wanted to share that with everybody.